Hi, everybody. Steve Scott here, and let's take another look at some of the great books I love to read, and I hope you are able to read them as well. So, this episode, we're going to look at books about coaching, and it's kind of loosely when I say about coaching, not just strictly coaching books or teaching books, but around that, there are interesting books that you might also want to read as well. First of all, if you've watched some of my videos, you know I'm a big fan of Coach John Wooden. Now, John Wooden didn't know a thing about Judo or Sambo or Jiu-Jitsu, but he knew a lot about basketball, and he knew a lot about teaching people. And there are two books, one by Coach Wooden and another one about him, that I highly recommend. Here it is. The first one is They Call Me Coach by John Wooden with Jack Tobin. Okay, great book. It's basically his autobiography. And it tells about his life. He's a very admirable man. He's not just a great coach. He's a great human being, or he was, God rest his soul. He is a legend in coaching. And no matter what you coach, no matter what you teach, I think this man is worth studying. So John Wooden, that's one book I highly recommend. Another one by one of his basketball players, Swin Nader, and Ronald Gallimore. I don't know if Mr. Gallimore was a player, just an associate writer. I'm not really sure. I can't remember. But the book is titled You Haven't Taught Until They Have Learned. And it's John Wooden's teaching principles and practices. And it really is a great book. I think every coach should read, no matter what you coach, no matter what you teach. And I learned so much from this book. I have a habit of underlining and making yellow marks on, and earmarking, turning the pages down. And this book is full of that. Just all kinds of, just about every page you find something good if you are teaching something to someone else. So you haven't taught until they have learned. About John Wooden by Nader and Gallimore. So I highly recommend that book, a good coaching book. Another book that I co-authored with John Saylor, and again, a shameless plug, and I don't mean to make this a commercial, but we do have these still in stock, Vital Jiu-Jitsu. It is about our approach to teaching Jiu-Jitsu as both a self-defense and physical education, and it is certainly... John had quite a bit to do in writing this book. I mean, Shingitai is his baby, and I helped him out quite a bit. But it is a good book. So if you want a good book on teaching more than just Judo, more than just Sambo, if you want a good, well-rounded approach to teaching Jiu-Jitsu, both as physical education and as a martial art, fighting sport, fighting self-defense situation, here's a good one. We do have them in stock at our bookstore or our online store, welcomeatstore.com. That's it, welcomeatstore.com. So there you go. So I would highly recommend that. Okay, some books on coaching. This was sent to me by a great coach, Building Warriors, West Point Judo's Road to the National Championship, Transformational Coaching in Action. I love that subtitle, Transformational Coaching in Action. It's by Hector Morales. He's a PhD. He knows his stuff. He was a very successful judo coach at West Point Academy, the military academy, took them to the National Collegiate Judo Championship title, I think more than once. And this is how he did it. He puts it out on paper, and he writes it in a very engaging way. So if you want to read about a successful coach and how he had gained his success, this is a great read. So I highly recommend it. So much for that one. Okay. Another book, again, a shameless plug. We do have them in stock at our Welcome Mat online store. It's Teaching on the Mat, and it is a follow-up to my book, Winning on the Mat, which was more on competitive judo coaching, more competitive judo, skills, as well as my very early book, that was Winning on the Mat. The Coaching on the Mat was my very first book on coaching, came out a number of years ago, and this is kind of an updated version of that, Teaching on the Mat. It is a small book, an easy read, and basically I think I have 18 different tips in here, 18 different things on things coaches should know. And they'll help you coach better, help you teach Judo, Jiu-Jitsu, Sambo, whatever it is better, any sport, any activity. So it's Teaching on the Mat, and again, a shameless plug for my book, but I think it's a good one. I actually I use it myself. I'll come back and refer to it as well. So again, I'm not bragging. It's just, it's a good book. Okay, so here's but I want to get some classics here. A very, very old book, might be out of print. I don't even have the dust jacket of it. I don't know if I ever had one, but it's My Study of Judo by Gunji Koizumi. And Mr. Koizumi was a early pioneer, one of the men who really made judo great in Britain in the 40s and the 50s. And he was a pioneer of judo, certainly all over the world, but certainly in Great Britain. And his teachings influenced vast numbers of people in British judo. And British judo is excellent judo. If you don't know judo, I'm here to tell you that the Brits know what they're doing. And here is one of the men, many other men as well, but here is one of the men who laid the foundation. So if you can get his book, My Study of Judo by Gunji Koizumi, you are well ahead. Now, it's a very old book. There's rather stiff photos in it. It was written back in the 50s, I think. It came out maybe in 1960. I don't know when it did come out. I can't really remember. It came out in 1960. It was printed in 1960, published then. But it's a classic. It's a classic. A lot of his concepts of teaching judo are in here. And if you want to see one of the main sources, the root sources of great judo coaching, here it is, My Study of Judo by Koizumi. There are also some other books, too, that are the Japanese who were the early pioneers in European judo have written, but I particularly like that book. Now, a man who was heavily influenced by Koizumi, and also because of his own research and development and experiences in life, is Jeff Gleason. Jeff Gleason is one of my favorite authors, and I think I know I have all of his books, but the three that stand out most that I would highly recommend, and I'm going to present them in the order that they impressed me so much. First of all, Judo for the West, and you can see it's pretty beat up. If you can get a copy, they're still out there. They might be reprinting these now, I don't know. But this was printed back in the 60s, or published back in the 60s, I believe, and I got my first copy in the early 70s. And I was a young man. I was still competing, and I was a very young coach because I knew I wanted to be a coach. I loved teaching, and I think that was just my calling in life. But he wrote this book, Jeff Gleason, when I say he, wrote this. It's a wonderful book. It really transcends, it takes judo from being just a Japanese entity, a Japanese type of thing, making it more for the Western mind, okay? And it's really brilliantly done. So it's, and he was also a bit of a rebel. A lot of people don't like Jeff Gleason. I particularly do like Jeff Gleason. But nonetheless, read what he says. It really has influenced guys like me and a lot of other people just like me for many years to come. So that's the first one, Judo for the West. Great book, book on technical stuff, but for coaches as well. I highly recommend it for coaches. Another book is Judo Inside Out by Jeff Gleason. A brilliant book. I think it's one of the most brilliant books ever written in judo and about judo. And it is certainly, hard to replicate or duplicate. You just can't do it. What Gleason says in here, I think every coach should study and know. Okay, I always said it was like the sociology of judo, but it is even more than that. So if you want a great book on judo, it's not an easy read. This isn't something you pick up and say, oh, that's how you do Osotogari, that's how you do Keisagatami. No, it's not that. It is a book you need to study, restudy, read, reread, and it may take several reads for you to get really to the gist of what he wants you to hear and what he's saying, but it's certainly worth the journey. So Judo Inside Out, great book by Gleason. The third of his great books, he's got others, but the third one is All About Judo. I think it's been rebranded another title. I don't remember what it was, but this is also a book by Gleason, Jeff Gleason, and it is a very practical book on the mechanics and teaching judo. It's, like I said, it's very practical. He discusses all phases of judo, not just competitive judo, but kata, training aspects. He has a lot of little tidbits in this book that are just really interesting. And if you're a geek on history and why things happen, like I am, this will be a book you'll really enjoy. If you can get this book, there's still some out there available, I'm sure. Check Amazon or whatever booksellers. But again, great book all about judo. So that's pretty much just the books I have here. Again, there are a lot of other great books that I highly recommend. But these are the books that I found that helped me a lot in my coaching and teaching of Judo, Sambo, Jiu-Jitsu, and I think you might find them equally as valuable. So pick them up, read them, and thanks for watching.